Hello. I still can't see anything. I'm coming to you a little earlier today. It's about 2 p.m. here, Rwanda time. And I have some thoughts today about things you can give yourself permission to do when you are a professional writer who works for yourself. So it's just three things that were sort of surprising, things that I sort of learned along the journey. If you're not familiar with me and what it is that I do, my Jesus, you can't even see my eyeballs. I can't stand this. But my name is Halana Black. I've been a freelance writer for the past 8 years. Um, for pay, for the most part, what I've been doing for the past 8 years is doing content marketing for um, tech companies in the U.S. mostly, also in places like Canada and the UK and a few other countries. And so, what I wanted to share with you today was just a few surprising things that I had learned about how really great it is to be able to work for yourself as a writer. Um, I never really thought that I could be a full time freelance writer. I always thought that writing was something that I would have to do within the confines of a regular full time job, or I would have to have, like, if there was other things that I wanted to be able to write about, I would have to be able to get like some other sort of work during the day and then be able to do sort of like my personal stuff um, on the weekends and in the evenings. But what I'm finding, what I have found out over the last 8 years is that because I have moved forward with creating this freelance writing business where I'm writing content marketing materials for other companies, is that it gives me the space to be able to do other things. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what that looks like. Um, but things you can give yourself permission to do when you work for yourself as a writer. Number one thing I've learned is that I can give myself permission to rest. Permission to rest. Now, prior to my work 8 years ago, when I started my freelance writing business, like my life was a falling apart mess. I was just really sick. But one of the things that I had always, I was just always tired, and a lot of the people that I worked with were tired. And it was sort of normal to sort of have the days sort of run into each other where you would just show up to work really exhausted. And of course, being exhausted and being tired was sort of a sign of you working hard. If you weren't tired, if you did show up to work, sort of bouncy and excited, then, you weren't working hard enough. Um, and so, what I'm learning as a writer is I can't produce good work if I'm exhausted, particularly in the last 5 years that I've been traveling. Um, in the year 2000, June of 2000, or July in 2018, I packed my stuff up and I moved to Thailand. And for the last 5 years, I've sort of been moving around. I've lived in seven or eight different countries since I've left the States. And one of the things that I've really gotten some time to do living in a few countries where the cost of living is a bit lower than what it is in the States is that I have time to rest. And what I've learned is that I don't really know how to, um, and most people don't. It's impossible to be your best self when you haven't slept well. If you're constantly worrying about other things and other people and other problems and other people who get on your nerves at work and whatever household issues you might excuse me, you might have going on, it's really difficult to be able to be creative when you're living in that sort of an environment. So when you're able to rest properly, um, you just find all sorts of creativity to do new things, to be able to sit and be creative about what it is that you really want for your life. And even before I left the United States, I had always known that I had wanted this sort of life where I can sort of put my self-care um, before everything else. And I'm definitely able to do that as a writer. Um, I didn't quite know that that was what it was going to be, but I know for a fact that I can't function if I don't sleep for 8 hours, between 8 to 9 hours. If I sleep for 7 hours, it's not. I know it's not enough. I feel like I have to take a nap during the day, which means I have to make up the time, which means that um, I've learned that there's no such thing as being able to make up the time that you work, that you lose sleep. Um, you really just have to go ahead and schedule. You have to be a good steward of your time and be able to schedule the sleep time that you need, because there's no such thing as making it up. And when you don't sleep well, I can see the difference in my face. Your face ages, your body ages, you're just not excited to do anything. So I don't do any more of those sluggish days. I no longer believe that, having a hard day or, working sleep deprived is a sign of being a hard worker. Um, I know that resting, having enough space in my life to be able to rest in the way that I needed is good enough for me to be able to ensure that I can stay a creative person. So, resting is important. Number two, you get to present your authentic self when you show up for work. One of the things that I remember when I started my business, let's say this, I think I started my business, I think it was like June of 2015. That was really when I became a full time, serious freelance writer. I had gone to the store, was running an errand, and I wanted to get some nail polish. And it was a new color from a company that I really liked that had just came out. And it was like a really nice light green, sort of like a springy green color. And I wanted to put it on my toenails. And I started to get it, and then I put it back. And the reason why I put it back was because I said, "Oh, I can't wear that," because I wanted to wear sandals during the summer. And if I wore sandals, I was thinking like I was still working. If I wore the sandals to work, it wouldn't be considered as professional, which is absolutely ridiculous because when you're a freelance writer, number one, you work from home, no one's looking at your feet. Um, and two, it's nail polish. Who really cares about who's looking at my nail polish? I'd never really worked at a place that told me that green nail polish was inappropriate or not professional. It was just something that I had created in my mind. And what happens when we have a lot of these so-called professional jobs is that we want to show up as a person that sort of fits into the culture of the company that is present there, because we want to fit in. We want to be able to move up the corporate ladder, and all those things are great. I'm not saying that you should. Um, what happens, where the problem comes in is that there are certain things that you feel like in your spirit that you want to do, and you don't feel like your work, or oftentimes other spaces in your life where you may feel like it's not appropriate to be your full self. Um, Really, what happens is you wind up making yourself sick. And it may not be immediately, but somewhere along the line, you start to develop things like unhappiness, which can turn into depression. You might find other ways to compensate for not being able to feel safe in your full self. Um, so you might do things like overeat to sort of soothe yourself. Um, You may develop anger issues. Um, you may turn to things like alcohol or other types of drugs in order to be able to deal with the fact that you're just not happy with your life. So it's really, even though I'm just sitting here talking about some green nail polish, I can count a number of ways in my life where I have sort of covered up who I was in real life because I was working to be accepted in a place that quite honestly wasn't really caring about whether, they didn't care about uh, they didn't care about me being my full self. They weren't interested in supporting me being my full self. Um, and we really have to learn how to do those things on our own. And so working as a freelance writer for myself has really given me the space to be able to think about, well, what sort of a work environment do I need? What sorts of expressions do I want to be able to put out into the world that are important to me, as opposed to giving that power to my employer and letting my employer dictate how, when, and where, what time I actually show up. So presenting your authentic self is really important to me. And so now these days, one of the things that I really have fun doing, um, I rarely ever have meetings with a client, but sometimes when I do onboarding for a new client, we may do like a Zoom call. And one of the things that I actually like to do is to put on some sort of like a bright something. I'll put, because just like in this video, you can only see a little bit of what it is that I'm wearing. But I'll put on some sort of a bright shirt. I might put, this is a scarf here. I might put this scarf on just to have something bright and colorful, because a lot of the people that I actually work with, even now when a lot of people are working remotely, what I find is that a lot of them will show up to calls like this and they will put on, something really stodgy, something stiff, something in like black and gray and taupe, in an effort to look professional, even if they're working at home. It's the strangest thing. And so I'll show up with like my bright colors. I might put on, like a nice bright lipstick. And then I often like to wear my hair out. If I'm having a phone call with a company, I like to be able to wear my hair out. And I can see when I turn the Zoom call on and their eyes sort of get all big. I don't know if they didn't know I was a Black person or they're just sort of surprised at what I look like, or I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. But it's like I can sort of feel myself sort of hooking them into hiring me for this particular job. And sometimes I can even, if they ask, I generally don't lead with the fact that I travel as part of my work. But if they ask where I'm located, I'll tell them. Um, and I'll just make it sound like I'm just taking a short vacation um, just happens to last about a month or so. They don't know that I've been gone for 5 years from the States. Um, but they'll see the big hair and the bright colors, and they sort of get into my whole story of who I am. And sometimes it kind of leads to me getting more money than what they were originally interested in giving me. It's like they sort of go into a trance when they see me. And it's because I show up as my authentic self. And I think it's because people don't get a chance to do that. And when people see you sort of living in your best space, being your most authentic self with no apology, then people have no choice but to accept that or not accept it. It's totally fine if you don't want to hire me and go elsewhere. It's no hard feelings on my end of my world, because I certainly believe that there are plenty of other companies who are going to hire me um, in my full fabulous self. And the same thing is true for you. There was also a point, uh, I don't anymore, but I used to put my picture in my email, in my work email, my business email. Um, Why? Because I wanted people to see my regular black self. When you see Helana Black and you see my little picture, again, neck up, you can see I'm a black person. So if that's an issue for you, go ahead. I don't even have to deal with you. So showing up as your most being present in your most authentic self is really important, and that's something that you can do to give yourself the freedom and the permission to do when you work for yourself as a freelance writer. And so finally, the third thing I'll get into is that you actually have permission to be as creative as you want with your writing. Now, the foundation of what it is that I do as a freelance writer is doing content marketing for corporations. And I actually really love this sort of work. I find it interesting. I think it's very creative. Um, I've learned a lot about internet marketing, digital marketing, um, from learning how to be able to write for large corporations. I don't have a technology background. Um, I never really worked in large corporations, even, when I did have a regular job, I have a background in education. So I worked in educational administration as well as a classroom teacher, working with adult students for the most part. Um, so I've learned all of this stuff. Um, I've learned all of this stuff on my own from resources that I've picked up. This is not something that I went to college for. And so what I've learned and what I'm learning is that the better, how do I say this? The better the clients that I pick up, um, the more money I get paid, and really the less hours I have to work. When you're a freelance writer, you don't necessarily need to work a 9 to 5 um, time frame, unless that's something that works for you. It does not for me. I hate working 9 to 5. Um, I explained in the video, I think yesterday, um, I was talking about how I like to be able to keep most of the morning for myself. Um, and what I mean by keeping most of the morning for myself is that I like to make sure that I take care of myself in the morning. So that means, taking the shower, making sure I drink 1.5 liters of water. I make sure I go outside and I sit in the sun for 20 minutes to an hour. I'll do meditating in the sun. I will do some sort of journaling exercise, and then I'll do some sort of writing activity that's simply for myself. And then I also do some sort of exercise in the morning. And those are the things that I need to do to be able to take care of myself. Now, when I had a regular 9 to 5 full-time job, I always felt like that part of me was not important and I needed to put that elsewhere. That I was giving the best part of myself to my job. And a lot of people think that way. You give your best part of yourself to your employer. Um, and that's not a way for you to be able to live. Um, you didn't come here to earth to experience, quite literally, being enslaved to somebody else. Not that working for another person means that you are enslaved, but the way that we put so much energy into trying to keep our employers because they have so much um, they have so much um, they have so much say so over our income and how it is that we spend our lives and where we spend our lives, that we forget that we have things that we want to be able to do. And so really we're just sort of voluntarily enslaving ourselves to other people, and it doesn't make any sense. So as a freelance writer, I get to be creative with my own writing, and because I create my own um, I create the way that I want my day to go. I create how it is and who it is that I work with. It gives me space to be able to do other things. So, like I was saying before, I don't have to work a 9 to 5. I only work on client work maybe 4 to 5 hours, 3 to 4 days out of the week. That means that I have time during the day to be able to spend on other types of writing, other parts of my creativity. I like to be able to make sure that I cook meals for myself, which is a creative activity. I love to be able to do artwork. I've been teaching myself for the last, what, 2 or 3 years, how to write and how to draw and how to paint. That was not something that I was doing before at any point in my life. And I'm really proud of that. It's nice to be able to find other creative activities for you to be able to do because we're all creative human beings, and it's our God-given right to be able to express that in any way it wants to show up for any of us. Um, so you can be creative with your writing. So I do the content marketing because it pays well. Let's be honest. We all need to be able to eat. We need to be able to pay our bills. You can be a freelance writer in a lot of other areas as well, but it may not always pay what it is that you need to be able to live the lifestyle that you want. So content marketing is what I do to be able to ensure that I'm able to make money, pay bills, save money for things that are important to me. Um, One of the things that I've done in the last few months is I needed to make permanent space to be able to have a creative writing community. And so I joined one. There's an author named Sumaya Usmani, and she's written 3 books. She has 2 cookbooks, narrative cookbooks, and then she just released a memoir, which is around the topics of her own food memories. She's originally from Pakistan, and I think she lives in the UK now. And I really love working with her because when I joined, she has a membership group called KISA, Qissa. You can look up her. Um, Issa blinks. I can really relate to what you're saying. Wonderful, Issa. I'm glad that this is. It's nice to be able to hear and see what other people um, are how other people relate to what it is that you're saying because you know that you're not by yourself. But yeah, I'm in a group, a writing group. It's a small writers group of people from really all over the world. Um, Mostly because she herself is an international person, a Pakistani person, who I think she lives in the UK now. And she facilitates this writing space. And when I joined the class, I really thought that I was going to be learning her way of writing. Like she was going to teach us what she knows about writing. Um, but more so than that, what I think I'm getting from her, and she teaches things here and there. We meet once a month, and then she gives us sort of like this short um, curriculum where we work together on whatever the issue of the month is. But what I really like about working with her is that rather than learning tidbits about how to write in the way that she believes that writing should be done, and there really isn't a way that writing should be done in any one way. Um, but she gives us these questions that sort of make us ponder on what it is that we want to do as writers. And so I'm learning that when you give yourself 30 minutes to an hour of free focused time, you can have free time, but free focused time is really important. You really start to think about some of the possibilities for your own writing career if you want to make it into a career. You can also just look at writing as something that you do for yourself. Then that's totally valid. And so there's in the group there are people who are like myself who are interested in creating an entire life around writing. Where there are others in the group who are just like, I like to journal. And I want to be more creative with my journaling or other more creative projects that they just want to do for themselves. And all of that is valid. So thank you to Sumaya Usmani. I really love the way that she presents what it is that she is teaching us. And I actually aspire to do something similar. Like for right now, I'm working on classes on teaching people how to be able to create your own content marketing freelance writing agency, because I think it's a really great way for people to be able to create their own freedom. Freedom is really important to me. I think I've gained so much by being able to create a life where um, create a life that is happy for me. I've worked in so many, like I've never really been able to really keep a job. I've never really been able to keep a job long term. The longest I've ever kept a job, I think, was about a year and a half, and then I just get to a point where I'm like, I just need to be out of here. I need to move on to something else. Um, and so the fact that I've been able to hold on to this and grow this content marketing company and being able to experience all the things that I'm able to experience by traveling to different countries permanently. Because I like, this is not something, traveling is not something that I do a couple times on vacation a year. I sort of live on vacation. I've taken sort of the best parts of my work as a content marketer and combined it with what I want with, living internationally and sort of living on vacation. Now, that doesn't mean I don't work. Let me be clear. I don't want to make it seem like I'm not out here working, because I actually do work and I work hard. But I know how to work on the right things to give me the results that I'm looking for, which is usually my payment as well as my free time. I know what I need to do to keep my content marketing business successful. Um, and so those are the things that I like to be able to teach to other people. So let me do a review, because we're almost going on 30 minutes of me doing this video now. 3 things that you can give yourself permission to do when you are working for yourself as a freelance writer is: number one, you get to rest. Rest is great. Um, Working through trying to work through sluggish brain, through sluggish days, and saying that that's a sign of hard work is absolutely ridiculous. We all need rest in order to be creative. Number two, when you work for yourself as a freelance writer, you get to present your authentic self. You get to do your big hair if that's what you want to do. You get to wear your bright colors. You get to organize your days in a way that works best for you and your energy. That's really important. And then number three, you get to be creative with the sort of writing that you want to do. It's possible to learn how to do work with clients that pay well, making sure that you have a good foundation for making the money that you need to make, so that you'll also have space to do other sorts of creative writing that really sort of serves your soul, your heart. So if you want to be able to write poetry, God bless the poets out there, but nobody's really buying poetry that hard. You don't produce a poetry book because um, you're looking to be a millionaire. People produce poetry because they have something to say, and they have a particular way of doing it through the art of poetry. Um, Issa Bling, thank you for the info. I used to do content mill writing, and it was disheartening. It's inspiring to hear that there's a possibility for a career from writing that is more enriching. Yes, Issa, listen, content mills. I've done content mills for not really a long time. I sort of figured out early in my career that content mills were not really the place for me to be able to work, mostly because it takes up a lot of your energy. When I first started writing, I was writing stuff for like $9, literally. I remember there was a set of blog posts that I had to write. I think they were maybe like 500 words each. $9 is what they were paying me. And I was so glad to do it because I felt like I was finally stepping into what it is that I wanted to do. Um, but you burn out really quickly. And like when I moved into like writing stuff for like 25 bucks, I was really excited because I was like, okay, if I can do blog posts for $25, um, then if I do four in a day, that's $100 a day. And then if I can work 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week, I can make $500 to $600 a week. Um, and I didn't really know how to build a business. Um, and so I thought that that was, pretty decent money. And I figured some way I can sort of work up from there. But that is not the way to run a business at all because you burn out very quickly. And so now I'm making at the very least $500 for a blog post. And on the upper ends, I will get paid 800. I've been paid as much as $1,500 for a blog post, and that's because of the way that I market to corporations who value the work of writers. I've gotten my skill up, but even though the skill is important, but it's not the most important thing. It's really in the way that you market yourself and in the way that you tell them that you're able to do the work that they need to have done. So, yeah. So, Issa, yeah, you need to get out of those, get out of well, you say you used to do the content mill writing. So, yeah, I don't know. If you can tell me, are you still a writer or are you doing something else? But yeah, it is very disheartening to be able to sit and do all that work for other people. And what I found that's really important is that when you work for clients that appreciate the work that you do and show their appreciation through the money that they pay you, they also give you less headaches as far as the edits on your work is concerned. The people that I've written content for $9, for $25, even for 50 bucks, 100 bucks, it's just not enough. It's just not enough. That's my alarm going off. I have to get ready to go to another appointment. But yeah, five, $5, $10, $25, all of it. It's not enough for the work that you have to put in to create this content. And so whenever I have clients that pay me the lowest amount of money, they always give me the biggest headache. The biggest headache as far as the edits were concerned. They were very, very nitpicky. It was almost like they were looking for a reason to not pay me, um, which is sort of, it's very disheartening to have to do that. You want to work for companies. They say you're still a writer, but you haven't gotten paid from it in a while. I'm trying to start a website and write for myself and pitch to other websites and get links back. I understand. If you wanted to, I have the sessions with helping experienced freelance writers learn how to be able to um, get better freelance writing clients. You can do that if you wanted to. I'm also putting together a course for people like yourself. It'll be like a sort of like a boot camp. In less than a week, you'll be able to go through the material um, and be able to start to get better paying freelance clients for your career so that you can start doing more of the things that are important to you. So please like this particular broadcast, subscribe, and share this with your friends. I would really appreciate that. I want to be able to build a really nice community. You said you'll definitely keep in mind and rewatch your old live streams. Wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, like, share, and subscribe. I want to be able to get more writers in here to be able to share um, content marketing skills so that people can create a foundation for themselves, as well as other types of writing. because I'm working on personal essays and all sorts of other things that I'd like to be able to teach. Um, so yeah, so I'm gonna go off because I have to get ready for my meeting. So thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.